Hey guys, welcome back. Mr. Salazar here, and what we're doing today is we're tying another steelhead jig. This one is going to be a Heckle Style Steelhead Jig. I don't know the proper name for it. I just know you have to use a Heckle feather for that. And all we're going to use today is our jig, of course, the thread, a piece of standard purple chenille, and a black Heckle feather. That's all we're going to use today. Oh, I lied. And this blue color yarn. Blue colored yarn. We're going to use that for our scent patch. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so we're back on the vise. Once again, I'm on a 1/8 ounce jig. And this color is, if I remember correctly, called Candied Purple. I really like this color. It's going to be a good color for coho season. We just ended coho season, so I didn't get a chance to use it. I'm sure there's still a few around, but next year I'll get to use it for sure. So what you're going to do, same starting point, is you're going to take your thread and you're going to start at the end of the jig head. And then you're just going to start wrapping your way backwards. And once you have that end, the loose end, covered enough, go ahead and cut off your excess. With this style jig, I found it is easier to build a longer tail than it is to try to get chenille to go halfway up the shank of the hook. So we're going to start a tail right there. Then I'm going to take a piece of purple chenille. This is the standard size, I believe. I'm going to rip a few of the fibers off the end here, so that way I can see the actual line underneath. So, as you can see, hopefully, if it will focus. Will it focus? I got the white thread there that's inside the center of the chenille. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this down. And once again, I like to do 1 or 2 loops to make sure it's centered where I want it. And then tie it down the rest of the way. Then on top of this, you're going to take a feather. Today I'm just using a black Heckle feather. You can find these at Sportsman's, Bass Pro, Cabela's. I've even found a couple at Bob's. Most of the brands that I use are from, more likely going to be from Cabela's and Sportsman's. Bob's got rid of their tying section. It got real small. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your Heckle feather and you're going to tie it right on top of where you tied in that chenille. And once again, I took a couple feathers off at the end to give it a really good, well, to help it attach is the main thing. So then now what you're going to do is you're going to take your chenille, well, you're going to take your chenille and you're going to take your feather, you're going to follow the spine up as far as you can. Then you're going to try to find a good place to connect your spine. And when you do it this way, you can make the tail as long or as short as you want it. Since I'm doing a 1/8 ounce jig, I don't want it to go too far past. I probably want it to be a little bit before the end of the hook right here. Move that a little bit. Okay, now all you're going to do is you're just going to start twisting. And as you're twisting, try to fray these out if possible, the strands on the feather. Because what they're going to end up doing as you're twisting is they're going to get stuck up underneath each other. So if you can fray it out, do so. So then all you're going to do is you're going to twist it around it is going to want to end up bunching up on you. So if you just keep pulling it tight, not too tight to where you're going to pull it out from underneath the threads, but tight enough to where the twists evenly distribute down the chenille. Okay, so I'm going to give this a couple more wraps. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, once you have it like this, you can use, you can do it without using anything. But what I like to do is I like to take, so what I have here is a wire for making a spinner. I'll put that in the middle where I want this to bend. So if I want my tail to be this long, I'll put that there to hold it down. And then I'm going to try to pull as much of these feather pieces back as possible. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread. I know I didn't leave much space to show you this. But I'm going to take my thread 3 times over, 3 times under, and then 1 time over again. And then your tail should twist up on its own. And then what you're going to do with this excess is you need to be careful not to cut your main line because you wrapped it around. Careful not to cut the main line. Okay, so what's left on there is the tail with the heckle feather on it. I think I cut that pretty dang close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a couple extra wraps to help secure that, because I don't want that tail going anywhere. So my tail is pretty short on this one, which is okay. There's not a specific length that it has to be for the fish to bite. It's fishing. Go ahead, experiment, test out new things. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it over, because now what we're going to add is our scent patch. So this blue strip here, I'm going to take probably an inch of it. And then what you're going to do is, now that it's flipped over, you're going to tie this in underneath onto the shank of the hook. So go ahead and give it 1 or 2 wraps, like I always suggest, just to get it where you want it. And then once you have it and you feel comfortable with where it is, just go ahead and tie it down. Okay, now that that's tied in there, what I like to do is I like to take this, make it taut, so hold it tight, and then we're going to cut across here. This point of the hook right here, I want to go slightly above that, because when I cut this, what it's going to do is it's going to release the pressure and it's going to sink down and be lower than where you want it. So I'm going to pull it tight and then cut slightly above. And that's perfect. You want that right in there on the point of the hook. You could cut that a little bit smaller if you want to. Me personally, for my preference, where that is right there is perfect. Okay, now that that's tied in, we're going to flip it back over. And now we're going to do our collar. So I'm just sticking with the purple theme. So we're going to take this purple standard, once again rip a couple of the fibers off the tail so you have a piece to connect to on the jig itself. Okay, and then I like to give that 2 or 3 wraps, and then since that's the last thing we're attaching down here, I like to take this all the way to the head. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this chenille piece and I'm going to start wrapping around and building up the body. Typically what I'll do is I'll use a thicker piece than standard. This is all I have for purple right now, so that's just what I'm using. And then once I get to the jig head itself, we'll go over the top 2 or 3 times, typically 3. Go underneath 2 or 3 times, and now that is tied in there pretty solid. Try to cut this down as close as you can to the back of the jig head. Now you're almost done. Okay. On this one, I'm not going to build up the collar like I did on the last marabou jig. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to get the fiber. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a white fiber there from where I cut it off. And I'm just going to try to cover that up. And once I get to the point to where I'm comfortable with how this looks, then we're just going to whip finish it. And I don't use the whip finish tool. That's not how I was taught. So if that's easier for you, go ahead and do that. For me, what's easier is just doing it with my fingers. And then once that's tight, just cut it off as close as you can. And then since that collar there is more exposed than I like it to be, I'll go over it in purple first, and if I don't like the color of the purple with the Sharpie, then I'll go over it with the black. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white piece here, and I'm just going to go over it with purple Sharpie. Oh, that's almost a perfect match. It doesn't need to be pretty, just needs to work. Although being pretty is just a bonus. Okay, so there you have it. That is the finished jig. And this is just a Heckle style jig. Now that I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and throw it in the jig box, and then that'll be used here shortly in the upcoming season. There you have it, guys. Another steelhead jig thrown in the jig box, ready to be tested. In my opinion, steelhead jigs take a little more effort than twitching jigs, but that's just part of it, right? Learning and adapting and trying new colors, trying new things, and going out to the river and seeing if it catches fish. And for me personally, I don't make these for business. These are all just because it's a hobby for me. I like to do it. So I'm just doing it for fun. And why I'm recording it is to have you guys see my process. Whether this makes it or it doesn't, it is what it is, right? I'm just doing this for fun, recording some of my adventures along the way, and hopefully you guys learn a thing or two, and hopefully it helps you want to get out there and try to be adventurous in some of the hobbies that you're doing. Alright, if you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up, go ahead and subscribe. If you have a comment or a question, leave that down below, and I will reply to it. Thank you for watching.